without further ado, let's jump into goal setting real quick. Um, I always like to, and I'm going to encourage you guys to do this exercise, not right here on the call, because like I said, I'm going to run through this in 6 minutes and you just don't have time to. But I would encourage you to either take a screenshot, you know, Control Alt print screen will capture this screen and then you can paste it into a Word document so you don't have to write down all the words that are there. And of course, once you have the video replay, which should be up by Friday at the latest, you can of course come back and just pause it. But I would encourage you to spend 15 to 30 minutes really working through this. Even if you have a journal with all your goals and you feel like, one of the things I fall into the trap of is I use goals a lot. And so when I'm presented with an exercise like this by a coach of mine or a mentor, I tend to want to dismiss it, even though our goals can always be improved upon and we can always get better at it, and they're going to evolve and change as we do. And so I think more often than not, it's worth doing the exercise, because even goals you wrote as recently as 30 to 60, 90 days ago very well may be stale or outdated by this point. So I would encourage you to do this part start to finish. Step one is to start with your life vision, right? And this goes along with the concept of starting with the end in mind, right? And this is the question I would pose to you and ask you to answer it. It doesn't have to be anything more than a couple sentences, a narrative, but I really want you to take time and soul search, for lack of a better word. But if time and money were no object, what would your days look like? And if you say you'd own a bunch of storage and rent garages, I'm going to say you're crazy, because we own a bunch of garages and rent them out so that we can have an awesome life. They are not the goal we're after. They're a vehicle, and we'll be able to talk plenty about it. But for this first paragraph that you're going to write, or a couple sentences, time and money were no object, what would your days look like? Who would you spend your time with? Where would you be? What would you be doing? And I want you to, as much as this makes me sound like a hippie, I want you to close your eyes and visualize it and experience. Like, if the hair on the back of your neck isn't standing up, then you're not there yet. You haven't done the activity, the exercise properly. I hate to say it. You need to feel this. And I will go so far as to say having a vision is probably the single most important thing that I have added, hack, if you will, that I've added to my life over the last 3 to 4 years when it comes to achieving success. So take that for what it's worth. I encourage you to do that. Once you've done it, then you ask yourself and answer the following question: what would you need to accomplish in self-storage to create that life? Right? So this is a long-term goal, whether it's, I don't know if it's a 1-year goal, a 2-year goal, a 5-year goal. That's going to depend on you, your circumstances, how aggressively you're going to be pursuing storage, if at all. But in this instance, I want you, it's not just a narrative, right? I want you to kind of reverse engineer. You look at that life that you just designed, and you probably know what it currently costs you to live the life you have. And the life you just created is potentially going to cost more. Not necessarily. And oftentimes people think that that life they just envisioned costs way more than it actually does. But there's going to be the reality that you have to make money. And if the idea is to move from doing what you're doing now to making some money in storage, what do you need to accomplish in the world of self-storage to create the life you just visualized? So maybe that's, $8,000 a month in profits every month, predictably, sustainably, by X, right? So when I say be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, that's the what they call the SMART methodology to creating goals. And you can't just say, well, I'll own 3 storage facilities. Well, if you own 3 12-unit storage facilities, that may or may not get you to the goal. So you need to say, and it doesn't have to be number of facilities. It could be number of units, number of square foot. It could be income, but it needs to be specific, and it needs to be measurable, right? It can't just be enough storage facilities to support myself, because we can't measure that, right? We want to say that $10,000 a month, right? Now, it also needs to be attainable. And this one I struggle with, and I struggle with helping people with it, because part of my job as a coach is to help people see their potential and the fact that they have the ability to achieve far more than they probably give themselves credit for, um, while also making sure that what they're striving for is not so ridiculous that they're going to be there's no way they're not going to disappoint themselves and be discouraged and maybe give up. So that's a balancing act, but just be honest with yourself about what is and what isn't attainable. I will tell you, uh, storage has the ability to quite simply change your life. And sometimes it takes several years. Other times it can happen in the span of 6 to 12 months where income increases by $5,000 to $10,000 a month that quickly, and gets people out of a job and allows them to be just storage investors forevermore. So um, keep that in mind. The other thing is it needs to be relevant to the life above, right? If you create this vision of your life that involves you and your significant other and your kids working 1 hour a week, and you simultaneously tell me that you want to buy 6 million square feet of storage in the next 12 months, those things are kind of to some extent mutually exclusive, right? It's not likely you can do one without sacrificing the other. So as you've heard me talk about in the past, make sure you're designing your storage business to actually serve the life you want, not falling into the trap that so many people do, that's more is better, right? If 3 storage facilities is better, 10 or good, then 10 must be better. That's not necessarily true. Um, Once you've done that, that's a longer term goal. I want you to break it down to stepping stones, right? And those are the things that you can accomplish, whether it's 2 or 3 things over the next 30 days that will move you closer to your long term goal. Don't feel like you need to outline every step between, let's call it where you are today is A and the long term goal is Z. You don't need to define every letter from A to Z. Just define A, B, and C and get those things, start taking action toward those things, and then D, E, and F will present themselves and you just continue to evolve. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't want to spend any more time on it because I know you guys are here primarily for nuts and bolts storage stuff. So that's what we're going to dive into. As I tell you every month though, I truly believe that this stuff, this 6 to 8 minutes that we spend in the beginning, if you take this as seriously as you take the next 40 minutes, you'll be further ahead than 9 out of 10 investors, because most folks are going to skip this stuff. And I believe this is really 80% of the success equation.